Okay, so today we're talking about, good morning, everybody. I'm Natalie Elliott. This is Jessica Renard and Mary Hannah. We are the staff at Atlanta Sex Therapy, plus more people, but we're the ones who are here today. And we're going to talk about, when do you leave a relationship? When do you leave? When do you exit? When do you get out? When do you say goodbye? All of the things, and how we as sex therapists help you make that decision. So, okay. So when do you know it's time to leave? All right, Jessica Renard, we're going to start with you. How do you walk your clients through making that decision? When is it time to leave?
One, I think any situation that anyone is in, I am much more of a decisive, direct person. So as soon as I'm like, I don't know that this is good, it's sometimes hard for me to come back from even that. As soon as my thought process goes there, it's like, for that to even come up, because I am very positive, I'm very in the moment, I'm very like, let's make it work. But as soon as we're getting to the like, I don't know, I actually rehashed a bad relationship with a boyfriend of mine, one of my first serious boyfriends. And I had always we were on and off. And he's like, you broke up with me first. And I was like, really? I was like, maybe I had more self-esteem than I had thought I did. Good for me. I think when it feels untenable, when there are more bad days than good, when it feels like you are fighting to keep your head above water more than you're like swimming easily. When it's just so hard, it doesn't need to be that hard. There are hard times in relationships. There's a difference between going through a hard time with your partner and your partner being the hard time you are surviving.
Oh, that is really good. That's really good. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, that's so good. All right. Say more about that. When do you know you're going, like, how would a person know the difference between the two? Like, this is a hard time, or is my partner's making this hard, essentially?
Where is the struggle coming from? Is it inside the house? Is it out of the house? Is it external circumstances? If you are struggling with like Hurricane Helene or Milton, this is not a time to get a divorce. This is external circumstances that are causing pressure inside your relationship. It could even be your kids. Research has shown that children are not productive for a healthy relationship. They are counterintuitive for a healthy relationship. Not to say that they're not great. I have a child, so I can feel like I can say
that.
But it's one of those things that, like, is it a stage of life that your children is going through? Is it a job transfer? Is it finances? Is it problems with the house, or problems with the dog, or problems with the country or the environment? Like, is it external to your relationship, or is it internal to your relationship? If you feel that you're not being heard, if you feel like you're not being seen, if you feel like you have to turn yourself into a pretzel, and this is men or women, in order to be accepted by your partner.
I also want to differentiate. I think the rules are different when you have children, and I think the rules are different when you're married. Just like when it's the whole point of marriage, right? We're bonded and we're connected a little bit more. And so so just understand that. But I think that's huge. I also want people, I remember when I first got into therapy, it seemed like the people who had problems that were workable were the ones who were willing to get a divorce. And the couples who I had problems that are like, I don't know if this is workable, wanted to stay together. So I think sitting down and figuring out for yourself what you want and what's your commitment level and how much more you can deal with and take. And also, I would tell a person, don't leave a relationship until you're sure that you're sure. Like, I don't want you leaving a relationship and then 2 weeks later, did I make the right decision? No, I'd rather you just stay that extra 2 weeks and then know, because when you walk away, I want you to know exactly why you walked away. Like, what drove you to that decision, or had you make that decision, and feel really good about your decision.
So there's actually I want to give Mary Hannah a chance to talk. I just have to say this real quick. So there's a chapter in How Not to Die Alone that is all about deciding versus sliding and how to break up. And in the breakup, chapter, they talk about writing a letter when you decide to end it, of these are
Mm-hmm.
the reasons why. This is why I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it can't work out. And that's to reference, because you're going to have those doubts regardless of whether or not they're founded.
Mm-hmm.
And then have a support team so that you have a time that you're making that conversation. You're not mincing the words. You're not trying to be the support person while the other person is trying to get over you.
Mm-hmm.
They need resources. You need resources separately from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And make a time to talk about it later if there are other things that you need to work out with, like housing and children and all of that. But like, have the breakup conversation separate and recover and know that
Mm-hmm.
like this is finite. Do not have sex with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what needs to happen, and then come back later to kind of discuss the final points. But yeah.
That's a good point. To do not have sex with them is a good point. Okay, Marietta, we want to give you voice before I keep
Yeah,
talking.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to second and say I just a pros and cons list. You know what I mean? It sounds simple. It sounds like something that's like tossed around
Mm-hmm.
forever. But y'all, like sometimes you got to externalize what is tumbling around in you
Mm-hmm.
internally, especially as those things build up. Make that pros and cons. What comes out? You know, like why are you still in the relationship? What are you still getting from it? Also, too,
Mm-hmm.
it's been mentioned, but like ending a relationship takes so much introspection and knowing yourself. You have
Mm-hmm.
to know where your lines are of if they've been crossed or not. You have to know at
Mm-hmm.
least, that idea of your internal values and goals to know if they are being compromised in a relationship or not.
Yeah.
Um, I think of like Gottman, who talks about situational versus perpetual problems, a little bit like y'all mentioned, and about how in a relationship, 69% of problems never get resolved. Those are just the inherent differences that we have
Mm-hmm.
from another person that we're with. And so it's up to you both to decide, are these differences we can live with? Am I compromising myself too much
Mm-hmm.
by living with your differences? And that
Mm-hmm.
takes a lot of internal knowledge about where you are, what you can and
Mm-hmm.
cannot compromise on. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
like that's a lot happening internally. Just get it out. Get it out on a piece of paper and see where the chips fall, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where sometimes people make a list and it's like, well, we have great sex and like the person is really attractive, but they call me names all the time. They lock me out of the house or like, like they just
Mm.
get dates or, and then it's suddenly like, wow, what would you advise a friend to do if they were with your partner?
Mm-hmm. That's really, really good. I think, okay, I'm going to pivot a little bit because I want to talk about when you're telling your partner you're breaking up. I don't think this should ever be inside of an argument. This should not be an emotional charge. I'm leaving you. I'm breaking up with you when you're in an argument. And I'm going to ask everybody, please, please, please practice not saying those things inside of an argument. That this needs to be a decision that you came to outside of the argument. And I don't think it should ever. One of the things I hate the most is when a partner had no idea that this was coming. And so if you're going to have a breakup conversation, it shouldn't be in the heat of the moment. And your partner should know this is coming or know that, hey, I'm not feeling good about our relationship. I'm really starting to think about some things and let's talk about some things. But I need you to know, because I just hate when people are like, I had no idea. My partner was unhappy for 5 years and I had no clue. That's just not fair. That's just not fair. And I think you have a responsibility to your relationship to let your partner know if you're unhappy for an extended amount of time and doing that introspection work. And am I unhappy because of me, or because of my career, because of family of origin issues, because of something, or is it the relationship? I'm really taking time to figure that out. So, yeah. All right. What else?
Well, and I would also, I know that this is slightly different,
Mm-hmm.
but also like avoiding threatening to break up or in the relationship when you don't actually
Mm,
mean it and you're just trying to get a certain response from your partner. That is an absolute no-go.
yeah. Yeah. That's because now you're starting to get manipulative. Yeah. And that's please don't. Just please don't. Okay. All right, Mary Hannah, when do you think a person should break up? Like if this is happening, what do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I think definitely touching on something
Wait, I
just
can't hear you. Is that my fault? That's my fault.
I think
Sorry.
so, because I could hear her.
Did you hear her, Jessica?
I did. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was just me. I
Oh, you're good.
apologize.
You're good. Something that Jessica mentioned too, like that ratio of
Mhm.
it actually like the ratio is not of like good interactions to bad interactions is not 1 to 1. That's not actually like the
Mhm.
balance that research shows. I might be getting the number off, but I think it's like 8 to 1. It's like you need a lot of good interactions to actually balance a bad
Mhm.
one in a relationship, and it's because like you and your partner have an emotional bank account, and so
Yeah.
you want to have a lot of deposits in that bank account so that when you inevitably need to make a withdrawal because you snap or you like say something or
Mhm.
whatever, uh, there's enough in that emotional bank account. So like looking at,
Mhm.
is your emotional bank account empty? How much are you depositing into each other's bank accounts? You know, like
Mhm.
how much of each other is a safe space for you to come home
Mhm.
to at the end of the day? You know, like are you living your lives together or
Mhm.
like completely veering apart? You know, are your
Mhm.
goals for your life aligned?
Mhm.
Um, are you like reaching for the same things? I would say if the answer to those questions are no, those are some really good ways to see like if the relationship is no longer
Mhm.
productive or healthy for either of you.
Mhm. I want to piggyback on that. I think there's another ratio out there is that most partners feel like they're doing 60% of the work and their partner's doing 40% of the work because you see everything that you do, you know what you do, you don't know everything that your partner's doing. You don't see them when you're not in their presence. And so keep that in mind that that's just in general. Most people think they're doing more than their partner's doing. And so having a conversation about that or, you know, flat out asking like what are the things that that I'm not appreciating you for that you're doing that I don't see you doing and making sure you're having those conversations. I think the other thing before you decide to leave a relationship is read a relationship skills book, because if you think this relationship isn't working but because your partner is bad, it also could be because you don't have relationship skills. And so wherever you go, you're going to take you with you. And so you're just blowing up relationship after relationship, not because the people are bad or it's a bad relationship, because you don't have the skills to
Mhm.
run that relationship well, to run any relationship well. And so before you just jump out of a relationship, read a book. Read a book, read 2 3 books. And so Gottman, Seven Principles of Making Marriage Work, Sue Johnson, Hold Me Tight, Harville Hendricks, Getting the Love You Want. Those are some more popular couples books, but just read books on couples communications. Like make sure that you are honing your relationship skills, that you're doing your own emotional work, because these like you got to have them no matter what relationship you're in. And I don't want you dumping relationships just because you feel like you keep winding up with bad partners. No, we got to look at you. We got to look at you. And so no matter how great of a car I give you, if you don't know how to drive it, you don't know how to drive it. It's not going to work for you. It's not going to get you anywhere. And so and realize if we grow up in a wonderful household or a terrible household, we still don't like get a class from our parents on relationship communication skills. So even if your parents are brilliant, they still aren't giving you great information on relationship communication skills. And so you have to figure out how to learn these skills for your relationship. Now, some households, those skills are modeled a little bit better than other households, but it's not like parents are sitting down and saying, hey, do this, do this, do that. It's just not kind of something that parents do. And so you have to take it upon yourself to say, How do I handle my emotions in a relationship? How do I calm down before I have a conversation? How do I regulate my emotions? And how do I start a conversation with I sentences? Like these are all skills that you need to learn. And so before you leave a relationship, make sure you're learning the skills. Like come out of the relationship with, okay, I learned this, I learned this, I learned this, I learned that, I was applying this, and then let's make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jessica Renard, do you want to add anything?
One, I think kind of going back to how a sex therapist can help during this time
Yeah.
is if you are still in the relationship and you're working on trying to exit, it could be that person meeting with them individually or even as a couple. Like if you've had that, like, how do we make this work? How do we make it doable for our children? How do we make sure that it's not contentious? And a therapist can meet with each of you individually and discuss like, what are your biggest fears? What are your concerns? And then meet with the other person and then come together and like, okay, this is what I'm hearing that are the biggest concerns. This is something that you don't need to worry about because the other person's not worried about it. And so like, this is how we can have some mediation because we're too close to it and things get hot and bothered. If you are in a relationship where it is dangerous for you to leave, or you know that the person that you're in a relationship, while they may not be physically harmful, will explode due to the relationship exploding, figuring out what supports you need. So a therapist can be really helpful in like, what is your support network? Where do you have to go? What is your physical resources? What are your financial resources? What do we need to have planned out and kind of structured to make sure that this is a viable option that doesn't put you or anyone else into danger? And then processing even after the fact, because sometimes people think that like, oh, well, it ended. Okay, but that's a lot. That's a residue of however many years, months, weeks that you were with this person. How was I sexually with this person? How was I emotionally with this person? What do I need to take accountability for that did not work? Because there is accountability enough for all.
Definitely.
Both people did things. And so maybe it's even just figuring out, I need to look at red flags earlier to know that I can get out of the situation ahead of time or faster than this so that I understand how to protect myself. So there are a lot of things before, during, and after a relationship where a therapist can be super, super helpful.
Yes, I totally agree. And I feel like that's not something people necessarily consider of like that transitioning, because especially whenever you're exiting a relationship, you kind of have one of two options, which is you can leave the relationship and it can jade you. And it can jade you to your worldview of other people of like, well, other people are just liars or manipulators or they only care about themselves. And that's one way that you can come out of a breakup. Or like Jessica was saying, like you can come out of it learning something and still allow yourself to be open to the possibility of other people like creating safety and trust with you. And also you gain skills that will help you discern that in the future.
It makes me think about quote Jay Shetty in the 8 Rules of Love when he talks about breakups. Breaking up does not mean you're broken. You were never
really good.
a part of something to break. Like you were always whole.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely so. And I think that one of the things, y'all, most people don't marry their high school sweethearts. Like you're going to have breakups. Like at least people usually, I think, in 3 to 5 relationships before they find their forever relationship. And even forever relationships may not be forever. So learning to break up is a skill, like learning how to do it and how to do it well and when to do it. And it's on the job training. It's not something that you can, even though we want you to read books, you still got to experience it and kind of go through it and know when to make that decision. And so be gentle and kind with yourself. That, definitely along that same line, you're not broken because you decided that this was not the relationship for you. You decided this was not the relationship for you. So, yeah, Mary Hannah.
And like along that same line, I feel like some people need to hear that like something doesn't have to go horribly wrong in a relationship for you to break up. You can just choose to not want to be with that person anymore. If like you can tell everything in you is aligning to the idea of like, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. That is enough. It is okay if your partner is still a really good person, if like the relationship itself still has really good parts to it. It doesn't have to be black and white, and you still have permission at any time to exit the relationship.
That's very, very true. And I think those are sometimes the hardest ones for people to leave, because it's like, I can't put my finger on why this isn't it, but this isn't it for them. And again, not in the heat of the argument, sit down, really try to figure out why this isn't it for you, and then make that decision for yourself. So
I think it's also important to realize that like people can grow and change at different rates. And so when you're together, if one person is a very slow developer and one person is a fast developer or puts a lot of time and energy into developing themselves, you may just outpace each other. So again, just like what Mary Hannah said, it's not that anything is wrong. It's just if we have a particular trajectory that we're hoping for, it could feel very stunted to try and like, I'm going to support you even though you're like 3 miles behind me. This is really challenging. Like I need somebody that's like at my level or causes me to grow, like, you know, helps me to change in the pace that I'm looking at. And yeah, it's super important.
Yeah, it is. Along the book you just mentioned, reference How Not to Die Alone. I thought that book was really good, but wait, what I was going to say. What was I going to say? I lost my thought in trying to think of the name of the book. But kind of outpacing people. It is knowing we have this idea of the type of partner we need. That's what I was going to say. We have this idea, well, I need a go-getter and I need a person who does this and I need a person who does that. And then you get in a relationship and realize, whoa, this doesn't work. It's somebody has to feed the kids. Like somebody has to be home to feed the pets. Like somebody has to do this. And so it's been interesting because I've been having, not so much lately, but like at the beginning of the year, a lot of clients that they thought they wanted a partner who was a go-getter like them realized, wait a minute, this doesn't work. Like
neither of us are in the house. We can't have a family. Yeah.
Right. And so just understand there's a little bit of trial and error to figuring out who your ideal partner is. And so it's definitely one of those things where you can think, well, I want this type of person. I want the exact me. I want to marry me. I need a version of myself. And then you realize, no, I don't. You know, if I'm a go-getter, I need somebody who's going to say, hey, let's sit down and smell the roses, you know. If I like to cook, it'd be nice if I could have somebody who likes to clean, like you're not clean. And so just really, really be open to that, because that's also a reason why people will break up. Well, they're not like me. We're just not alike at all. You don't really need to be alike. You need to be able to be partners and to get along and to move your life forward, but you don't need to be alike. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
How does that person make you feel? Yeah.
Can you be yourself with that person? Can you be yourself with that person? Can y'all laugh together? Can you guys recover from arguments together? Like, you know, do we have some real skills here that will carry the relationship forward? And if not, can we build those skills? Is your partner open to building your skills? I think as a therapist, I've been doing this, 16 years now. And what I have noticed is as good as it gets is a partner who's willing to work with you and grow with you. To say, hey, we messed up on that. Let's do a better job. This is what I can do. Another partner says, this is what I can do. So the partner who's willing to work with you. I think in that book, How Not to Die Alone, she was like, somebody who's willing to hold your purse while you're at the doctor's. Like, are they just willing to be with you in those hard moments and do those things that are outside of themselves to support you? So those are things that you're looking for in a long-term committed relationship. Okay. Last 2 minutes. Jessica, your last words, and then Mary Hannah will get your last words.
Wherever you are, it's okay. There's a way to move forward. No matter how hard it feels, this too shall pass. I think that's the biggest part. Like,
yeah.
And even like piggybacking off of that too, there are like places, even like Reddit, right? Where it's like people share their experiences about getting out of difficult relationships all the time. And so there are so many accounts that like you can read for yourself of like people feeling like, I have no idea how I'm going to get past this. And then they do, and even like update their accounts years later of saying like, I can't believe I thought there was no like way out, that I was going to be stuck with this person forever. I'm so much happier now. There is always a way forward.
That's so wonderful. I like that. There's always a way forward. And for those of you guys who getting out of your relationship is not easy, I'm going to definitely say get a therapist to help you along the way. And I think one of my clients, it took them, I'm going to say like 5 years to get out of their relationship. And so it can be a long, drawn out, complicated process. And if I talk to that client, they would say that they made the right decision and they're happy. They are. And so no matter how dreary it looks, or that there is a way forward, and we're here to help. So, okay. All right, ladies, y'all have a great day. All right. Bye.